Welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Online Summit. We are thrilled to have your attendance here, and we're looking forward to sharing with you a whole host of expert speakers that are going to help you navigate your way through the current pandemic that we're experiencing. But to kick off, let me introduce you to the man behind this whole summit who's brought it all together, gathered all the speakers, and invited you to participate in it. His name is Grant Herbert. Now, Grant's a friend of mine and has been for quite some time, but he describes himself as an ordinary guy with a great wife and 5 amazing kids. But he has a passion to help people escape the performance trap, regain their authenticity, and enjoy being who they are created to be in every area of life. Now, Grant's a real talent when it comes to the understanding and the application of emotional intelligence. He was named Emotional Intelligence Speaker and Trainer of the Year. He has a host of other awards. He has his own podcast show. He's able to navigate all of us with his expertise in emotional intelligence, positive psychology, and applied neuroscience. His practical experience and his passion for people's wholeness, wellness, and formation actually allows us to really lean in and look forward to him being the opening speaker of this conference. He's a multi-award winning leader. He's an entertaining and engaging communicator, and I'm sure you will look forward to Grant Herbert's presentation right now.
Well, hey, we're live. Welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Online Summit for 2020. Thank you so much, Rowan. I really appreciate those kind words, and now I will hopefully live up to them. I need people to understand from the word go. I am an emotional intelligence subject matter expert. I'm a work in progress in its implementation, just like you. And we're going to have some fantastic fun. I've already been having some chats in the chat area with lots of people. And I would love you to just help me out right now and just say hi in the chat and let me know where you're from and what time it is. I'm amazed at the commitment already of people who are up at midnight, 3 a.m., whatever it is. And that means that you're going to get the most out of it. So well done. Let me just have a look down here. And I understand that there is a 20-second delay from when I speak to you hearing it on the feed. So I need to, as all our speakers will today, I need to be mindful of that. So Yoga Fun Kids, I know who that is. Well done, Connie. Great to see you here. Hello, good to see. So let me just make sure that everyone can hear me. So great. 7 a.m. in Brisbane. Fantastic. Good morning up the road in Sydney. Hey, Claire, great to see you. Yasmin, down in Melbourne. You guys have been doing it tough down in Melbourne, and things are going to brighten up really, really soon. So we're going to do what we can to help you with that over the next couple of days. Joining from Sydney. Fantastic. All right, so what about my people all around the world? You've all gone quiet on me. Where are you from? And say hi, that would be fantastic. Yes, hi from Croatia. There is an amazing amount of people from Croatia registered, and that's because Ivana is one of our awesome speakers for the summit. And yeah, she's going to do a really, really great job. I'm so blessed to have her here. Hi from the Czech Republic. It's 10 p.m. Excellent. Love that. All righty. So I just want to give you a little bit of an overview about the summit first before I get into my session. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of effort that's gone into making this happen. And I want to tell you why I created this summit. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Grant Herbert, as Rowan said. And up until March this year, when my entire life changed, I got the privilege of traveling around the world and speaking to people just like you in venues and putting on these sort of summits all over the world. Now, Unfortunately, this year we couldn't do that. And I had a lot of changes that I had to do just like everybody else. And I had things going on, and I sort of stepped back a little bit and said, you know what? I'm probably not going to do it this year. It's too hard. Yes, I am a subject matter expert, as I said, but I'm a human. No one's perfect, right? And I was having a bit of a bad day about it. So I was just thinking about it. It was just sitting on my heart. And I said, you know what, Grant, put your big boy pants on and make it happen. And within a few days, I had got together 13 amazing speakers who were willing to give up their time to come and speak to you and to run our summit as an online summit. Now, one thing I want you to know right off the bat, I am not using the word virtual. And I'll tell you why. Not just because it's being overused everywhere, right? I'm not using the word virtual because, and here's the first teaching for the day, virtual means it's not real. It's close, but it's not real. Well, let me tell you, the information and implementation that you're going to get over the next 2 days is real. It's not virtual. And one of the things that I learned early on in this pandemic situation that we're in right now is that what I do is not changing. It's just how I do it that's changing. So I'm calling it an online summit. So last year we had it in a venue. This year we're doing it online. Let me tell you, sometimes out of adversity, comes the seed of a greater opportunity, as we've all heard before, because we have people on this summit registered from every continent, from countries all around the world. And if I had to put that summit on in the live venues that we did, that wouldn't have happened because I can't be everywhere. So therefore, I only ran it in certain places around the world. So I'm really, really excited about that. So that's why I created the summit, because right now we could all do with a little bit more emotional intelligence, a little bit more positive psychology in our life, a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on in our brain and our body. And that's why we're talking about those 3 topics in this summit over the next 2 days. And, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and, how we can use that to feel and navigate this time in our life right now. Now, here's the thing. We're going to do our best not to mention the C word, and the C word is COVID-19, right? It gets way too much airplay. Because what we're going to be doing over the next couple of days is not just about now. This is about going beyond COVID-19. And this is my hashtag I've been using all year, beyond COVID-19. By the way, if you do want to let people know where you are and tell them about this on your social media, just use the hashtag EI Summit 2020, and that will keep us all together. This is about giving you practical skills that we needed before, during, and beyond this pandemic. So I just want to thank my team. I want to thank my speakers. My team over the last few days have been thinking, well, we'll just leave him alone, particularly yesterday. We had major technical difficulties yesterday. And hey, if we have those technical difficulties at all today, let's not worry about it, because I'm recording everything and we're going to make sure that everyone gets a copy of those recordings or is able to get to those recordings. So the other thing about that is that some of you right now are really, really committed, right? I don't know if I would be up at 2 a.m. To listen to me, but you are, right? And that's fantastic. However, others are having a sleep, and that's a good thing. That's self-care. And with that, I've created it in a way that we're able to cover the different time zones around the world. So we've got a session this morning, which goes for 3 hours. And I say this morning because it's morning here in Sydney, Australia. It's 8 a.m., right? We started. So from 8 till 11 and whatever that is. And for some of you in the United States, for example, that's yesterday for you. You're still in yesterday, right? And then there's a big gap through the day because people have got stuff to do. And then at 5 p.m. this afternoon, we're going to jump on again. And we're going to do another 3 hours. And that suits the other time zones as well. And we're going to repeat that again tomorrow. So with that, that means that if you miss anything, right, you're going to see it again in the replay. So you're going to be able to grab that. And hey, if you're listening to this after you've done the the other session, if you're ahead of this, that's okay too. You're still going to be able to put all this together and say hi and let us know where you're from as well. So the last thing before I get into it is, as I've mentioned before, there's a 20-second delay. So as our speakers are speaking, you're going to see things if they share a slide or something like that. You're going to see it, a little bit after they have popped it up, which is okay, and then they'll speak, and that's fine. So your questions and comments that you make, we'll do our best to sync those together. But hey, just on questions, what I'd really love you to do, you can keep talking in the chat. Now, the chat, please bear with me with the chat, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a heap of other people doing mediation, moderation of the chat. So I want to answer your questions. I want to make sure that I feed those questions to the speakers. And, whether that's a good idea or not, we'll find out. However, can we please just keep it on topic, right? Anything in the chat that's not about what we're doing here and it's not a question, it's not appropriate. So I'd really ask you to help me with that. And secondly, we're going to have times within the speakers after they've spoken, we're going to have times to answer questions, right? So I've made sure that this is not one of those back-to-back-to-back type things. This is a session where we got, a 5-minute break for having a comfort stop in between sessions. And I've made sure that there's time then between speakers so that we can make sure that they're on and get the technical side of it done. And more importantly, get, some time for questions. So write your questions down, keep them until I call for questions, so that then you're throwing them in the chat box and I'm pointing down to where I can see that. And I'll be able to find them. All right. And we'll do our best to answer all those questions. And hey, I'll get the chat roll. If I don't get to answer all the questions, I'll probably do some of my lives around those topics coming on. All right. We're ready to go. We're ready for this first speaker. And guess what? It's me. So hopefully, let me just check in the chat now. It's still people saying it's 27th of October here. We've got people from Albania. Thank you so much for organizing. What else? Nigeria, welcome Nigeria, Minneapolis, Chicago, Melbourne, Darling Downs in Queensland, Lisbon, Portugal, Czech Republic, Croatia. There's people everywhere. So just keep those going. I'm actually going to just close that down a little bit so that I can't see it during my actual talk myself, because with the delay, it's really weird. Hang on a minute, I'm talking, but it's not coming out. So let's get into it. So I want you to know me in this. I want you to know my heart. I want you to know more about me before we get into, the how-to and the stuff that I'm going to give you. And I am definitely going to give you some practical things that you can apply in your life right now. And just with me and every other speaker, here's what I want you to do. When we're telling you a story to illustrate a point, it's not about our story. It's about putting yourself in the story. What is your story? How is that contextually relate to you? That's the first thing. The second thing is for you to get one thing. Set yourself a goal to get one thing out of each of the speakers that will help you in your life right now. This isn't about just giving you heaps of information. This is about giving you practical strategies that you can use. So I want to start off by being really vulnerable. When I was 15 years of age, which is a while ago, right? When I was 15 years of age, I found out something that had happened in my childhood some time ago, when I was 6 months old, actually, that changed my life for many, many years. See, I found out that my mum back then, when I was 6 months old, put me on a doorstep and left me there. And she went home. And when I found that out at 15 years of age, I had a pity party for the next 25 years. See, it's not what happens to us in life that matters, it's what we make it mean. Now, I made it mean. If a mother could leave their child at 6 months old on a doorstep, surely she didn't love me. And therefore, nursed and rehearsed over a period of time, as I continually let that inner dialogue rule my life, I changed that to, therefore, you are unlovable. And let me tell you, that became a self-fulfilling prophecy in my life for those 25 years and a little bit more. You see, Dad comes home from work and said, "Where's the baby?" And Mum told him the story, right? And he goes down there to see if he can get me back. And guess what? I'm still on the doorstep. Not only did my mother not want me, the people where she left me didn't want me either. And I let that story tell me stuff about myself, which led to me having some beliefs about myself, which would hold me back from being who I could have been and was born to be for many, many years. See, here's the rest of the story, the bit that I left out. The rest of the story is my mum was not well when she had me. Back 58 years ago, a little bit longer, I was born premature. I had some developmental issues and difficulties, and Mum was going through what we now know is called postnatal depression. Back then, it was, "Hey, here's your baby. Good luck. See ya." We didn't know about that thing. So here's the real story. My mum didn't feel in her then mental state that she was able to give me the life that she wanted me to have. You see, it wasn't that my mum didn't love me. My mum loved me so much that she was willing to give me up so that I could have the life that she didn't think that she could give me. Now, when I was 15, I heard both sides of the story, but why was it that I grabbed onto the negative, the story of she didn't love me, therefore I'm not lovable, and not go to the real story or to the one that was true? Why did I form that false belief based on the negative evidence that I chose to believe? And I'll tell you why. It's because when I was 15, at that point of my life, I didn't feel worthy anyway. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like anyone could love me because I surely didn't love myself. And that became my belief structure going forward. It's not what happens in life, remember, it's what you make it mean. So what is it that's going on for you right now? What is it that you're believing about yourself which is not true? What is it that you're believing about your current circumstances and your ability to navigate them that is not true? So over many years, that had an effect on my career, it had an effect on my relationships, and it certainly had an effect on my confidence and my ability to be who I needed to be in every area of my life. And I went through a military career and a corporate career, holding on to this belief about myself. Now, out of that, I now know that I was suffering from what I call the performance trap. And I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit shortly. I was constantly seeking to not get rejected. And here's the thing, whatever we're seeking to do, if we're focusing on the rejected, see, the brain doesn't hear the not, the don't. It hears what it is that we're focusing on. So in not being rejected, I was becoming someone who was pushing people away. It wasn't really working the way that I wanted it to. And over a period of years, I suffered from stress, from anxiety, from, just not enjoying life, putting on this faith to everybody else that, hey, I'm doing fantastic. Look at me. I am, an achiever. I work hard and I've got all these skills and I've got all that. And everything that I did to prove myself to other people. Now, in the work that I get to do all around the world now, as a coach, as a mentor, this is a common thread that I'm coming across, and it could be common for you right now. So I want to give you an encouragement, and my whole purpose for telling you that story is not so that you can feel sorry for me or feel bad for me. It's to enlighten you about where you might be believing things about yourself that's not serving you as well. See, stress and conflict, internal conflict with who you are, all these things, they play a big toll. And I stand before you as someone who has had 4 physical and 1 mental breakdown in their life. And you're probably thinking, well, or you could be thinking, I shouldn't say probably, you could be thinking, well, what are we listening to this guy for? What's he going to teach us? See, the best gift that I can give you and that I give my clients is my experiential journey of what I did, what I learned, what I've changed, what I'm doing differently now because I've learned this stuff. And, you know, it was a beautiful day in Sydney. I can remember a number of years ago, and I traveled into the city. I live about 50 kilometers from the city. I traveled into the city on the train. Like I just live in a rural area right on the outskirts of Sydney because I'm originally from the bush, and you can take the boy out of the bush, but you can't take the bush. Sorry, yeah, you can take the boy out of the bush, but you can't take the bush out of the boy. And I love to just be on the train and to go in there. And I remember I was on the 27th floor of a building in Pitt Street, Sydney, in this beautiful boardroom. And I was doing what I love to do. I was teaching, I was training a group of executives around emotional intelligence. And I had a smile on my face and I was doing my thing and I was animated and I was giving my passion like I'm doing with you right now. And then all of a sudden, this feeling of dread came over me. And it was like, even though the sun was shining through the window, it was like a black cloud just descended upon me. And I didn't know what was going on. But instead of exercising self-care and going, well, hang on a minute, I need to have a break here and see what's going on, what did I do? What I did was I just kept smiling and I just kept going and I just kept giving my best. And I just kept thinking about everybody else in the room rather than myself. You see, I did that because I cared way too much about what other people thought of me. You know, Eleanor Roosevelt said it so well. What other people think of you is none of your business. And in fact, she went on to say that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And I was certainly allowing other people to make me feel the way that I was feeling. I was choosing to feel that way. So I kept that smile on my face. I finished, you know, back then we were allowed to shake hands. I shook hands with people. I thanked them. They walked me to the elevator. I got in the elevator, and as that elevator door closed, I went, what is happening? Am I having a heart attack here? Am I going to make it home today? And it was at that point I decided that things had to change. And I had several meetings still to go that day, and I just forgot about them all. I got in the train, I went home. And I made a decision from that day. Even though I'd worked on these areas and I've already was an expert working around the world in emotional intelligence, this stuff was going on. And I made a decision that if I was going to be able to continue to do that, I needed to make some change in my life. And I've done that. You know, looking at this situation where things have changed in my life. I used to be out of the country every month, but now I haven't been anywhere since March 1st. I flew back into Sydney. And I look at that as a positive thing now because I have been able to spend way more time at home with my family, with myself. I have a commute. This morning, my commute was huge. It took me about 14 seconds to come from my kitchen where I finished my cup of tea to come into my studio and to do this. So I made a decision to change my life. So right now, what is it that you could change in your life so that you started exercising self-care? So let me tell you a little bit about finding emotional intelligence. By the way, when I found out this emotional intelligence thing that we're talking about today, I'd never heard of it. You know, most people had heard of, you know, things like Daniel Goleman's book, funnily enough, called Emotional Intelligence, but I hadn't heard of it. I certainly found out or knew once I knew what it was that I didn't have any. I hadn't developed those skills. And I really wish now that people had invested in me in my corporate career, in my military career with these subjects. See, what happens a lot is we teach technical skills and we get people's abilities in those areas where they need to be. So we don't worry about these warm and fuzzy soft skills that they call them. We all know that these are the ones that create all the problems, all the conflict. So I remember I'd got out of the corporate world, and I decided that I would start my company, People Builders. And, it's a great name. I love the name because that's what I do. I love to build people up and help them to bring out their personal best. And, I started, it was just me. And I went and got some, extra training, even though I'd been coaching and training and leading people for many years in the roles that I had in defense and corporate. I wanted to formalize that. And, and even in that, I was, thinking about, well, no one's going to listen to me if I don't have a qualification and all those sort of things. So the performance trap was still running. But what I did is got involved in this whole world of developing others. And I was going along and things were going really great. And I was, helping people to change their lives, and I was feeling, fulfilled. And I came across this thing called emotional intelligence. In fact, I came across what's called social and emotional intelligence. And I thought, wow, this sounds interesting. And I'd sort of, by those times, I'd heard a little bit about it. So I then got involved, and I then did a lot of research, and I wanted to get trained and certified in this so that I could help others with it as well as help myself. And I came across this amazing lady who you're going to get to meet after me this morning. I'm just so thrilled to be able to share Dr. Laura Belston with you. She's my mentor. She's my guru. She's my person that I look to as being the person who started my journey in what it is that I'm doing now. And I got involved, and the thing that it did is it firstly helped me to change my life. And in all the training and stuff that I do, and even our certification program, when I take people through, I say to them, get it for you first. Give yourself the gift of learning these competencies before you even look at others. And I went from that about 8 years ago now, I think it was, to now where, as Rowan said, at the start of this year, I got named Emotional Intelligence Speaker and Trainer of the Year. I've physically been in about 25 countries, doing the work in many, many more countries online. And it's been an amazing journey to the place where now I get to train, mentor, and certify other coaches and trainers and HR professionals all around the world doing the same thing. And it's been a really great journey. And as you can see, it's my passion, because it was my key to overcome the performance trap. So this performance trap thing is where we perform to get approval. Performing's okay. I'm performing right now, but I'm not performing to get your approval. I'm performing to serve you. My focus is on you, and there's the difference right there. But when we perform to get the approval of others, we don't always get it. And when we don't get it, even if we've done the best job that we can do, it erodes our identity. You see, my performance is what I do. My identity is who I believe I am. My mother left me on a doorstep, therefore I am unlovable. My mother didn't love me, therefore I'm not worthy. I don't know if you're a parent, someone that's a parent, or you've been a kid yourself, but hey, parents are not perfect. And by the way, perfect's never the goal. Perfection is never the goal. And I'm not a perfect parent, and it's never going to happen, right? So I remember, in the first times I was getting my business started and everything, my practice started, I had two little kids who have now grown up, and they're in their, in Australia here, their high school certificate. They're just finishing their exams. They're 18 years of age, and they're adults now. And it's like, they used to be these tiny little babies that I could hold in one arm, and twins, a boy and a girl. And I remember trying to get out of the house in the morning and trying to get off to what it is that I was doing. And I was really concerned that I was not going to get there on time. So I was focused not on my kids, I was focused on where I was going that morning. And I remember getting to the point sometimes with my daughter Tegan, where I would, go from, hey, Tiggy, where are you going? What are you up to the fact that we're going to get out of here right now, right? So in that moment, my emotional state led me to say, Tegan, get out of here now. And I yelled at my child. Raise your hand if you've yelled at your child ever. And when it's someone that we love, 14 milliseconds later, we've got this horrible feeling in the pit of our stomach. I didn't want to yell at my child, but I wasn't focused on the child. I was focused on performing for my client. And that changed who I was. And nursed and rehearsed all the way down to that first appointment. I went from I yelled at my child to therefore I am a bad father. That's the performance trap. Let me help you to reverse that and turn it around on itself. See, performing's okay. But when we perform to get the approval, that's the problem. So here's what we do. We develop our emotional intelligence, particularly the competency that I do the most work in, that's personal power. And we build our own identity. We get rid of those negative beliefs, those false beliefs, those limiting beliefs of who we think we are based on our previous experiences and what people have said into our life that we've made true for ourselves. We take responsibility for those. And we go, you know what? That's not who I am. I'm going to define who I am. See, I love doing this for you right now. I hope you like me, but it's not what I'm doing it for. It's not my motive. So when we build up our identity, here's the key right now. Get ready for this. When we build up our own identity, instead of performing to get approval, we get to a position of self-approval where we're okay with who we are. Yes, we're still teachable. Yes, we know there's things we're working on, but we look in the mirror, and I'm not just talking about physically, but in every area we're going, you know what, I'm happy with you. And we get to that position, and that's what emotional intelligence can do. It can get you that position of self-approval. And then, instead of performing to get the approval of others, what we can do is get to that position of self-approval and then perform out of that. Let me tell you, it might sound like semantics in terms of, the words. It's a totally different way to live. Because right now I'm up here doing this for you, and I'm not concerned about anyone but you. I'm not concerned about what you're thinking about me or all those. I'm concerned about getting this message across to you and helping you to change your life. So I'm just going to have a quick look in here. Someone saying, I've been feeling the same dark cloud. It's a dark place. Thanks for sharing your story. And hey, yeah, I appreciate your thanks. And I've got to just turn that down again now because I want to get into the chat, but I'll get into that shortly. But here's the thing: when you get to that position of self-approval, it's okay for me to tell you that story or my stories, because I tell you them not to make you feel sorry for me, but I tell them about you to empower you with the lessons that came out of them for me. However, if I was trying to get your approval, I'm the expert coach who travels the world. I'm not going to tell you stories about when I broke down and when I was less than. But I find that vulnerability and being real with people is what really helps me. And by the way, taking off the mask and being who I really am, that's a much easier gig, team. Trying to, remember who I was trying to be to those people the last time I was there and what mask I was putting on, that creates even more stress. All right, so what is this thing called emotional intelligence? Indeed, social and emotional intelligence. So social and emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of your own emotions and what might be going on in the emotions of others in the moment. And then to use that information to manage yourself and manage your relationships. So if we then look at just the emotional intelligence side of that, it's about becoming self-aware around what's going on for you in the moment. So what I want you to do right now, and I'll have a look at them a bit later, but I just want you to go through it right here, right now. I want you to type in the chat roll, what is the emotion you're going through? One word. I don't need the story around it. What's the word? And as you're doing that, I need us to understand that there are over 2,000 words in the English language alone to describe an emotion that we could be going through in any moment. Yet we carry around about 6 to 10. We're either happy or we're sad. We're either frustrated or we're angry. We even say things like, oh, I feel tired. See, an emotion is something that we experience viscerally that then creates by our thoughts and by our behavior, a longer term feeling, which leads to the mood that we're in. So the ability, firstly, to be aware. So that's the first thing. It's an ability. So you can learn these skills. Secondly, it's an ability to be aware of what's going on. What's the emotion? Let me just see what people are typing in. People are going gratitude, joy, excited, peace, angst, stress, excited, anxious, overwhelmed, joy. Yeah. So to help us with that, all right, I'm just mindful of the time. To help us with that, we need to be able to language it this way. I feel, insert what the emotion is, that one word right now. Or I am feeling, whatever the word is, right now. So I am feeling peaceful. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling content. So that's the first step. And then, just like coming on this summit, the only value that you're going to get from this summit is when you take what you're learning and then you use it. Knowledge without action is more frustrating. You know, if I had to learn about this emotional intelligence thing and then did nothing with it, I would still be back here. In fact, I'd be worse off because it would frustrate me. Forget who said it, but to know and not to do is not to know. So we take what we're learning from that emotion. We learn how to navigate that emotion by, as I said, working out which emotion we're going through first. And then when the emotion level is low, so we recognize in the moment that we might be feeling, for example, in a relationship situation, a conversation, we might be feeling misunderstood. So instead of waiting until we get up here where we're frustrated or where we end up getting angry, we deal with the emotion here when we're feeling misunderstood. You know, the brain is my brain. That's not my brain, but I use that all the time in my training. And you know, in our brain, the way that we express or we navigate that emotion will determine whether we go from, or we make a decision then from our logical brain or from our emotional brain. And most of the times in my life, I was just reacting emotionally. You know, people say don't overreact. I've got a distinction around that. I believe the goal is to respond. Respond is something that's logical. Any reaction to an emotion, I believe, is it's not necessary. So instead of overreacting, which says it's okay to react, I want to get to respond. So we use that information to manage ourselves. And what I want to do, as I'm finishing up here, is I want to give you a strategy. I want to give you a strategy that you can take and you can use it so that you, in those situations, can get control over your emotional response. Put your hand up right now if you react every now and then. If your emotions that you're experiencing lead you to a negative behavior. All right. Yeah, I can't see you obviously, but there's hands going up all around the world, you know, and mine's up there too. So here's the thing. The first thing we want to do to manage our emotions. By the way, emotions are good. We don't want to suppress them. We don't want to ignore them. We want to experience them in a healthy way. Emotions are there for a reason. They're cues and clues to tell us what's going on internally so that we can then change our direction, change our thinking, do what we need to do to get a favorable response. So if anyone's ever told you, leave your emotions at the door, don't bring your emotions to work, it's impossible. We are emotional beings. So the first thing we want to do, as I've said, is we want to name the emotion. So we've all heard of this, you know, oh, count to 10, just count to 10. So give yourself some space before you react, before you respond. And that's a good thing. You know, counting to 10, you know why it's such a good thing? It's not just because it gives you 10 seconds of space. Counting is a logical process. So you know what it does? It actually lights up the neocortex. I am a neuroscience nerd, and I'm so excited that we've got a neuroscientist coming on tomorrow. We've got applied neuroscientists later today. And it's just, yeah. So if you're into neuroscience, you're in for a treat. So we name the emotion. and we ask ourselves the question, what is the emotion I'm going through right now? By using the word what rather than why am I feeling this way, we've invoked the logical part of our brain rather than gone deeper into the emotion. So, not worrying about why at this point, what is the emotion that I'm feeling? The second part of the process, once we've identified that, is to then go and do an audit of our thoughts. And the word audit is a logical process. You know, if you get audited, they go through the fine detail. So we ask ourselves the question, what is my thoughts right now? What am I thinking right now? What is my internal dialogue saying right now? So we're gathering information. And the reason we do that is so that we can then take it and look at it logically. And we can either dispel the myth, debunk the negative or the untruth that we're thinking. We can bring it up into a logical. We can put it into perspective so that we don't spiral down into the emotion. So name the emotion, audit your thoughts. And hey, I have great conversations with myself, and we've all got this internal thoughts, this mini me that we've created. And I'll have conversations with myself when I'm feeling this way, and I'll go, hey, Grant, hey, that's not true. This is true. So do whatever you've got to do to get yourself to that point. The third thing we want to do, because we've now put ourselves in a more favorable position to be able to think clearly and logically, is decide on the outcome that we want. So if I'm feeling a certain way or something's happening and I want to it not to be that way, we can ask ourselves the question, what do I want to happen right now? What do I want to see happening differently? So name the emotion, and then just going to admit Laura into the waiting room. My apologies for 2 seconds. If I could get my cursor to work, that would be really great. So name the emotion, audit your thoughts, decide on the outcome, and then the fourth one is control the sabotage. Now, when I show this in my trainings, I've got this slide of this guy with a piece of duct tape over his mouth. I'm not recommending that you do that, but whatever you do, ask yourself the question, what could I say or do right now that would stop me from getting that outcome? Now we can flip that the other way and go, what could I say and do right now to move towards that outcome? We're going through a logical process. I hope you're writing this down. And then number 5, and we've gone through a 4-step process so that we are ready for this, is to then choose our response strategy. The reason this works now is that we have come up out of the emotion, we're looking at it logically, we've dispelled the myths, we've quietened down the thinking, we've focused in from all this overwhelm to one thought that we're having right now. We're getting one piece of information of what's my next step. And then we're able to choose a strategy that will move us to that next step. So that's a 5-step process that we teach when we are helping people with their behavioral self-control, which is one of the 26 competencies of social and emotional intelligence. So let me just check in with you right now. I'm just looking at a number of things here. I want to see what insights that you've got out of that, and then I'm going to take your questions. All right, so just type it in there, please. I didn't, the second strategy. All right, so I'll go through them again. Name the emotion. Audit your thoughts. Decide on the outcome. Control the sabotage, and choose the response strategy. Fantastic. All right, any other questions? My apologies, people are asking me, someone's asked me to speak softly and slowly. I will do my best. I've got so much passion I'm trying to get out, but thank you. I will make sure that I do my best for that. Any other questions right now? All right, so as I'm giving you a chance to type those in, if we ever want to make a long-term change, we need to rewire our brain. We need to replace what's going on in there right now, because we've got a pattern that we've all built up. This is why neuroscience is such an important topic. And so what we need to do is we need to recognize the thoughts that we're having, the behaviors that we're operating in that aren't serving us. We might think they are, but they're not. And sometimes we need a coach to help us to do that. However, if we can recognize, then we've got to reject them and go, no, I don't want to do that anymore. So I had to reject the behavior that was leading to my burnout. I had to change what it is that I was doing. So I had to not just recognize it, I had to reject it. Then, and only then, we can replace it with a new strategy. And then, just like we have to build up what we've got going on there right now, we repeat the process over and over again. So this strategy that I've just taught you, it won't happen like that, because you're already running a strategy. You're already running an internal process of how you manage your behavior, manage your emotions. So repeating the new strategy, telling your mini me, your small voice, to be quiet, and teaching it new things, and repeating that over and over, you will rewire your brain, and you'll be able to go from the way that you are navigating emotions now to a more healthy and harmonious way moving into the future. So let me just check in again. Great. So, there's heaps now. Can you give me an example? I'm not sure what the example was of, so you might want to, Manuel, if you can type that in. Love it. Reminds me of Tolle's different levels of consciousness. Thanks so much for sharing. Great tips. Sabotage is such an easy tool to employ to excuse fear-driven inaction. Yeah. Hey, we believe that the sabotage is a good strategy because it's keeping us in the mindset, in the box, in the limitation, the cap that we've put on ourselves. And we don't want to go outside that because that's scary. And that's going to create what we have told ourselves it's going to create. Love that. What's your advice to a person who cries at the slightest provocation? Can she apply these 5 strategies? So that person's not here. I'm not coaching them, or I could be. However, the first thing is to recognize that crying is a good thing. I cry. My kids laugh at me. I cry if someone wins 50,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because I can feel the emotion for them with that. So for me, it's being able to go through. So rather take our eyes off the crying. That's the behavior. What we need to do is come back, just as I've taught you, and go to the root cause of the feeling and the thoughts that lead to that crying. Please possible share us an example of how to apply the steps. Hey, I'm limited in the time right now. However, the asking those questions is how you do it. Right? What is the emotion I'm feeling? What am I thinking? What do I want to happen? What could I do to make that happen? Or what could I do to sabotage that, if that's where you're operating? And then what do I do next? What's my strategy? Reminds me of CBT. Yes, very much so. Is it like an emotional diary? Yes, we teach people to do that. Sabotage can be sneaky sometimes. Yes, particularly if we keep hold of it. Fantastic. All right, I'm just mindful more here. Definitely it can. Fantastic. All right. Well, hey, that's my bit, and I'll be going through some more stuff with you as we go. What I wanted to ask you the question right now is, where do you go next? What's your next step? Is emotional intelligence something that you could do some work on developing? And I'm going to do my best to put some resources and things in the recording area so that I can help and serve as much as I can. But as I told you all up front, in the invitation to this is not one of those things where we're going to sell you anything. right? I just want to serve you, right? However, if you've got questions, there'll be plenty of opportunity for you to get back in connection with me and to ask those things, and we'll give you the resources that we can. But what's the next step for you? Okay, well, I got through all of that without my water. I need to have a little bit of water right now. And we are right on time. So there's no more questions, and I appreciate that. Questions will come through the day, and if your question didn't get answered, we will definitely go back and we will look at that, and you can interact with us and from here. But what I want to do right now is we're going to go and we're going to have a little bit of a break because we all need a comfort stop. We all need a stretch. All right. So everyone, right now, just put your hands above your head, just a little bit of a stretch. Oh, that's good. And shake yourself around a little bit. And we're just going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to get you back, and then we're going to get ready for an amazing speaker. I am so excited to be able to share this next speaker with you. She is the reason that I do what I do today. She is phenomenal. She's an amazing communicator. We are so blessed to be here. So make sure you hang around, make sure that you do this, 5-minute break, go and get a drink, go to the bathroom, stretch, do whatever, and then get back in front of your computer or whatever it is that you're watching this on, and we will have our next speaker. I love you all. Looking forward to investing the next 2 days with you.